Hey everybody, welcome to the Mana Leak. I'm John as always, and it's time for my Oath of the Gatewatch pre-release recaps. It's a little bit delayed this weekend. Obviously, it was pretty darn busy with the pre-release. I was hoping to get this up Sunday, but hey, Tuesday is better than never. But I'm going to go over my two pre-releases. I did two pre-releases at the Gamers Emporium here in London, Ontario, at Oxford and Wonderland. If you haven't been, or if you're in the area, stop on by and see us. We're a fun little store. But our pre-release was great. Our Saturday pre-release was another big one. We had, I believe, 49, maybe even just over 50 people. We're hoping to break 60 for Shadows over Innistrad. But it was a great event, really well set up. Everything went pretty smoothly. Everybody seemed to have a good time. We had a ton of door prizes. A significant amount were from the loot crates, which you've seen me open. The store owner gets the loot crate, and he uses all of those goodies for prizes, BB-8 socks, and bobbleheads, and etc. But it was a fun event, a good solid 6 rounds of play, and just an all-around fun time. On Sunday, I played a smaller event back at the actual storefront rather than the hall that we rent out. It was 22 people, pretty packed for our little store that we play in, but it was also a very fun event. On Saturday, top 8 got 9 packs each, with the 9th through 16th getting 2 packs each. On Sunday, I'll get my days figured out one of these days. On Sunday, the top 8 got, I believe, 8 packs, and the the top 4 got 8 packs, and the 5th through 8th place got 2 packs each. So slightly less packs around, but still a good time all in all. I'm going to go over both of my pre-release decks from those 2 days, the matches that I played, and then kind of my impressions of the format as a whole. And we're going to get on into the first deck right about now. So for the first pool that I had on Saturday, it was a little bit nutty. There was a lot of good cards. This is what I came up with. I had 2 non-basic lands. I had Involving Wilds to go and get my black splash. I was playing blue-red. And I had a blue-black tap land, which just helped for my splash anyways. But this pool was nutty. I got multiples of cards I should not have had multiples of. Just crazy. In the 2-drop creature slot, we had a Reckless Cohort. We all know how that plays out. It's just a fine bear. Umara Entangler was okay. I got some prowess triggers out of it. Immobilizer Eldrazi was interesting. It's a 2-1 for 2, basically. I sometimes could have activated it, but I was ahead, or there wasn't enough that it was going to hit to just not be that great. Zada's Commando was pretty good. 2-1 first strike for 2 is fantastic to have. I definitely forgot the cohort ability a number of times, but I didn't have that many allies anyways. I had the cohort, the Entangler, and I think I had one more. Over in the 2-drop creature slots, here's one of the spells that I should not have had doubles of, Eldrazi's Sky Spawner. Both battle packs had one, and boy were they solid. We know how good Sky Spawner is. Having 2 in this format was awesome. Eldrazi Aggressor was great. I had more than enough colorless that it was almost always turned on with haste. Eldrazi Obligator won me a number of games. I was able to just get that 3-1 haste out, steal something, and hit them for a ton more damage than they ever saw coming. Coomfire Sleeker was basically a 3-2. Never really used the ability. And Mind Melter was fine. I read the ability of Mind Melter wrong. For some reason, I had gotten it in my head that I got to see their hand, and I got to pick the card. That's not the case. Had a pair of Sweepaways, another card that was ridiculous in multiples. That is such a card that I love. Instant speed, bounce, and sometimes to the top of their library, fantastic. Containment Membrane was okay. As I expected, I rarely surged, and if I did, it was just kind of a cool discount. I never really tried for it. Seer's Lantern really surprised me. It really did a lot of good effects. The colorless mana source was fantastic, and scrying when I needed to was great. Oath of Jace I played. I actually got to discard some cards that I didn't want and draw some cards and refill my hand. It was fine enough. And, the Planeswalker ability is totally irrelevant unless you happen to have a Planeswalker. But it was fine as just a sorcery speed kind of loot spell. Let me readjust my camera here. There we go. I got a Coastal Discovery, another fantastic battle card that we all know of. A lot of my games would start out feeling like I was just playing Battle for Zendikar with the Sky Spawners and the Discoveries and whatnot. Up in the 4-drop creature slot, we've got a Warden of Geometries, which was fine. 2-3 was fine. Remember, it has Vigilance. I missed a lot of attacks that I could have done with it. Embodiment of Fury, however, was fantastic. The number of times that I played this on turn 5 and had a land to then immediately play and swing in with was fantastic. I really like this Embodiment of Fury. I never really saw the other one, Embodiment of Insight, but Embodiment of Fury I'm pretty high on for the time being, at the very least. Yeah, landfall is still kind of here. Over in the 5-drop slot, we've got an Oracle of Dust. It's 4 and a blue for a creature Eldrazi Processor. We all know what it does, right? It's a 3/5. I didn't have any way of processing, so it was just a 3-5, which was totally serviceable. Boulder Salvo down here, my other Surge card. Again, just like the Membrane, sure, sometimes I surged, and that was kind of cool, but otherwise this was just a 5-mana removal spell, and it's not a good one. It's slow, it's not instant speed, it's only 4. It's like a bad version of Stone Fury, but I had to. And hey, talk about Planeswalkers, I actually did have one. I had Chandra, so I actually did scry exactly 1 time off of Oath of Jace. Chandra, however, was amazing. Her +1 got in so much damage so many times when I played her. Her 0 I didn't use too much, but it was always nice to have that access to that if I needed to. Sometimes I just refilled my hand. And her -X, wow. This cleared so many boards for me. There were times where I would just cast her and immediately kill her for -4 just because I was in trouble. There were times where I was able to wipe the board and keep things. Just ridiculous. One fantastic game, I actually managed to get in some combat damage, bluff an attack like I had a buff or something, and have my opponent block, allowing me to do a -3 on her and still wipe out a bunch of X4s. Great card. And hey, another great card, I also had a Sphinx of the Final Word. I didn't play it very much. I think I played it like 3 times, and 2 of the times that I played it was against somebody also playing the Sphinx, but it was pretty solid when I did play it. I hope to play it with it again. And then there was this F of a card, Roiling Waters. Terrible card. Terrible, terrible, terrible. It's not actually terrible. In Sealed, it was fantastic. I still don't know about it in Draft. I don't know, 7 mana, blue, that's a lot. But it is a very powerful card. There was a number of times where I was able to just flat out win the game with this, or at least get a significant tempo boost and some card draw to really pull ahead with the game. I was pretty happy to have this. There definitely were some times, there was a very non-zero number of games where I just lost the game with this in my hand because I had 6 mana. Or I had 7, but I didn't have double blue. It's a very real possibility. You just lose with this in your hand because it is so costly. It's significantly less likely in Sealed, but I think in Draft it will be more likely, so be careful about that. So how did this disgustingly powerful pool with double super playable mythics and double Eldrazi Skyspawner and Bounce turn out? Well, in match 1, I was up against Laura, who I have had an unfortunate curse of being matched up first with in Cube and just getting stomped by her. But I finally broke the curse this time around and beat her 2-0. She was playing a black-green-blue deck to begin with, and then a green-white deck for game 2. She was having a bit of trouble with her pool. It was kind of pulling in several different directions. I think she eventually figured out a deck that wasn't either of those ones. But I just managed to totally overwhelm her. Roiling Waters won me, I believe, both games. Pretty easy, 2-0 for match number 1. Match number 2, I was up against Doug. Doug has a tendency of playing super aggressive decks, and he was, of course, playing a super aggressive black-red deck, and my deck was definitely aiming to be a little bit slower and get out Chandra, get out Sphinx. I managed to hang on to 1 game, and I lost this match 1 and 2. The game that I won was the one where I talked about bluffing some damage through in order to wipe the entire board while keeping alive Chandra. But I did lose that match 1 and 2. Match number 3, I was up against Duncan. Duncan was playing red-white allies, very similar to what you would have seen in Battle for Zendikar, except it was a lot of cohort allies, which makes for a significantly slower and more defensive deck than what we're used to with red-white allies. It was a bit of a struggle in this match, but I did pull it out 2-1, again on the back of Chandra. Just tons of versatility with her, wiping boards, things like that. The final game of this match, we were coming down to turns. It was a minute or 2 away from turns, and I managed to Eldrazi Obligator, steal something with Chandra on the board, make 2 elementals, and swing in for something like 14 damage unblocked for my final turn. Totally turned that match around and pulled that game out, or that match out 2-1. Match number 4, I was up against Alex. I don't recall which Alex this was. Yes, now I do. Alex, yes. He was playing a bluish, blackish, controlish sort of deck-ish. I'm not exactly sure what the archetype would be called, but there was tempo in it. He was the one playing another Sphinx of the Final Word. And yeah, the games were very back and forth, a bit stally, and a kind of who could stick their Sphinx first. Now, luckily, both games that I stuck my Sphinx, it was a turn or 2 before his came down, and when his came down, it was just too late. It was always on the final turn. I pulled this match out 2-1 as well, so I was going into the the second last round with a record of 3-1, feeling pretty good, figuring, hey, if I can go 5-1, I will lock top 8 for this event. I go into match 5, and I'm up against Steve, who is playing a black-white life gain deck. And boy, was it a disgusting life gain deck. It was kind of like a Battle for Zendikar life gain deck with all the good things that you could possibly add from Oath of the Gatewatch. Cliffhaven Vampires, things like that. Just a disgusting amount of black-white life gain. I hung on for one game, but I lost this match 1 and 2 as well. Again, Chandra, pretty solid in this matchup, but otherwise I was just totally run over. Aggro is definitely where my deck ran into some trouble. So final round, I was 3 and 2. I needed to win to make top 16, or else I would be hoping for one of the bottom 16 spots on tiebreakers. I was up against Marco. I didn't write down what Marco was playing, and I can't quite remember, to be honest. But I do remember I was able to take this 2-0. Fairly decent matchup for me. He wasn't too aggressive. He was a little bit more mid-rangey, which gave me time to set up, gave me time to Chandra and just fly over the head with Sky Spawners and things like that. So I ended up 4 and 2 in the first pre-release. That was enough to get me 11th place, which got me 2 booster packs. It was a very fun event, and I really did like this deck. I thought it would do better than that, but it turns out that aggro was just way too deadly to me, especially the super fast black-red aggro that I was up against, and black-white life gain as well. Because, of course, black-white life gain, if I'm playing slow, he wasn't attacking me, but he was still draining me and hitting me for damage and retreat to Hagra and etc. To take me down. But very fun first pre-release recap. Now we're going to take a look at my second deck and how the second pre-release went. So my pre-release pool on Sunday I wasn't as happy with. I could not get 2 colors out of it, and the non-basic lands here kind of suggest what was going on. I had a Corrupted Crossroads to get colorless, as well as some Devoid Splash, Crumbling Vestige for more color, Holdout Settlement for even more mana fixing, and an Evolving Wilds because I had to go 3 colors. I ended up going full-on Esper with a fair amount of colorless, so kind of 4 colors. I was definitely a little bit of a greedy mana base here. As well, read Corrupted Crossroads. It only works on Devoid spells. Luckily, most of my spells were Devoid that I needed to splash for, so I was fairly okay with it, but I didn't realize that till game 1 of my first match. I had a Searing Light in the 1-drop slot. Didn't really do too much. There were definitely some times where I said, haha, got your guy, and there were a lot of times where I was like, ugh, this card is just literally dead in my hand. I have no use for it. I'm still not sold on main decking it. Spatial Contortion, on the other hand, totally main deckable. 1 and a colorless for an instant speed removal on a lot of creatures in the format. Even some bombs is really good. Up in the 2-drop slot, my sleeves are making the light a little bit bad on this. We had a Sky Scourer, a 1-2 flyer that can become a 2-2 flyer if you cast a colorless spell, or bigger if you cast multiples. Core Castigator was fine. I made him fly somehow, that we'll see in a little bit, quite a bit. And another flyer, Dimensional Infiltrator. 2-1 flash. I played that on turn 2 so many times and just started swinging in, as well as the incidental mill by paying 1 and a colorless off of it. And hey, I actually saved it a couple times too from removal and stuff like that. Really solid card. Over in the 3-drop slot, we had a Vampire Envoy who was really good and comboed really well with a couple of my cohort cards. Narcana Assassin was basically there just to be a 2-3. I didn't really gain life too much, even off the Envoy. Sky Spawner, we all love Sky Spawner. I only got 1 this time, but hey, 1 is better than none. I did have 2 Core Sky Climbers, and I figured they were pretty solid. I'll play a Leaping Master any day of the week, and I'll play a Core Sky Climber even after a Leaping Master. It's a 3-2 that can fly. And a Benthic Infiltrator as well, because, hey, we can't have enough Benthics, right? I didn't have any processors, but, hey, Incidental Ingest, totally fine by me. You might notice a flying theme going on here. I think 6 of the creatures I've shown already are flyers. Tar Snare was a solid removal spell. Royal Spout. Sometimes I didn't get to cast it, but I didn't actually have too many color issues, surprisingly. I actually was able to awaken that quite a number of times. Smite the Monstrous, fine enough card. A lot of people were playing big things and being a bit greedy. Oblivion Strike is the best removal spell we've seen in a long time at Common. Boy, I can't wait to draft a bunch of these really highly. It did so much work. Up in the 4-drop slot, we had a foil Drana's Chosen, who was amazing. There were a number of times that I got just an army of zombies out off of her. Cliffhaven Vampire, which comboed with Vampire Envoy whenever I gained a life. They lost a life. And the Gravity Negator, I got to say, come fly with me a number of times with Gravity Negator, because, hey, when everything flies except for a few ground creatures, why not make those ground creatures fly 2. Gravity Negator was just fantastic, and I had more than enough colorless sources to power it up. Over in the 5-drop slot, we had an Expedition Raptor who was totally fine, a Malakir Soothsayer, which was great, especially with the Vampire Envoy. There were a number of times where I actually had Soothsayer, Vampire Envoy, and Cliffhaven Vampire, so I would lose a life, gain a life, draw a card, and make my opponent lose a life. And hey, I did have a bomb. My promo was a Linvala. Linvala was amazing. She's a 5/5 flyer for 6, which is totally fine right there. There were a number of times where I would sort of convince my opponent to attack me by leaving myself open a little bit so that I could then just gain life right back, plus get a 3/3 flyer if they had more creatures. She was fantastic. I didn't play her nearly enough, but the games that I did, I won pretty handily. Now, this deck was awesome because I won in several different ways. Some games I would bounce and remove things and play for the long game to get Linvala out. Other games, I just made an army of zombies off Drawn as Chosen. And several games, I just went 2-drop flyer, 3-drop flyer, 4-drop flyer, 5-drop flyer, and just flew over my opponent's head. The number of flyers in this deck was insane. But, yeah, I really liked this deck. I hated the pool to begin with, but I liked the deck probably ultimately more than I liked yesterday's deck, the Saturday deck that you just saw. But how did this deck do? Did I do better? Well, let's find out. So, match 1, I was up against Brian. Brian was playing a black, red, blue, semi-aggressive deck, semi-mid-rangey. I was able to take this down 2-0. Flyers just totally overwhelmed him. He did not have any real way to deal with the Flyers and just flew straight over his head and finished that match up 2-0. Match 2, I was up against Sean. He was playing black, white, red, also kind of aggressive, slightly mid-rangey. This one, I did lose a game, but I still won the match 2-1. This was one of the matches where I managed to get just an army of zombies out, and he was mostly on the ground, so I had blockers for days. Match 3, I was up against Marco again. Marco was playing black, red, white, same as Sean was, and I 2-0'd against Marco. I can't remember exactly what happened in that match. I think I was just super fast with the Flyers yet again, which was kind of the go-to for my deck. So I was 3-0, and this was a 5-round event. So I was pretty sure I had already kind of locked myself into top 8, even if I lost the next 2 matches. But hey, I wanted to win them. Match 4, I was up against Morgan. Morgan is a greedy player. He often plays 5 colors. Today he was playing 4 colors: black, red, green, and blue, with a bit of colorless, so kind of 5 colors. And I lost. I lost hard. I did hang on to a match. I lost 1 and 2. My final match, unfortunately, I did mull to 5 and then got stuck on like 3 lands. But the deck just fired for him. Just so good. Splashing for really solid cards like Void Grafter and tons of things like that, and just took it down. He ended up getting second place in the event, only losing his final match in round 5. Round 5, I was 3-1. I was hoping to make top 4 so I could get a bunch of packs. I was up against another Sean, store owner Sean. I don't remember what he was playing. Yes, I do. He was playing almost mono red, but with a little bit of another color, I believe white. He had a Chandra this time around. Luckily, I don't think I ever saw it. He told me he took it out, but I was pretty sure he was lying. This one was relatively quick. I managed to win it 2-0 as well. Again, just Flyers. Just Flyers. Flyers were so good. I believe both games I went turn 2 Core Castigator or turn 2 Eldrazi Displacer, and then turn 3 Flyer, turn 4 Flyer, with the turn 4 flyer being the Gravity Negator to make the Core Castigator fly, and was just smashing in the air for large amounts of damage by turn 5. It was just a little bit ridiculous, to be honest. I could definitely see Esper Flyers being a viable draft deck, and blue-white Flyers I think will still be fantastic as it was in Battle for Zendikar. But overall, another fun day. I ended up going 4-1, which got me 3rd place and 8 packs, so I was pretty happy with that. So 10 packs over the weekend with an overall record of 8-3. Pretty solid record, I think. So what do I think of the format? I think the format is very interesting. This, of course, is the sealed format, which I won't play too much of. I'll do a few Spiky Saturdays with it. In paper, I don't know if I'll play it again. I might play it at a PTQ or something, or a PPTQ or something like that. But obviously draft is where it's going to be most of my competitive playing. So I'm still not quite sure how the draft will fall out. But as far as the format as a whole goes and the set as a whole goes, I feel pretty confident in the way that I approached most of the mechanics. I loved the colorless mechanic. I think it added a whole new level of thought into your deck building, into your mana base building, into what to have on the board and what to cast and when to cast it. I really, really, really did love the colorless matters theme of this set. Surge was exactly what I thought it was. It was a mechanic that sometimes I got to use, and when I used it, I said, oh, that's cool. All right, I'll take a couple mana discount, I guess. But I never really tried to play for it, and I think if you're playing Bonesaws and you're playing Expedites, you are just going to be playing a terrible deck if you're trying that desperately to enable Surge. I do not think that Enable Surge is a deck. Again, I can't stand that this was in a real set. I think it should have been in a multiplayer focused set like Conspiracy, not a real draft set, and not a second set that's being drafted with another set at that. Really underwhelmed by Surge. I just think it's a bad mechanic. I think it's like Spell Mastery, where it's a discount that you'll sometimes get, and that'll be cool. Cohort was better than I thought, but it definitely does slow allies just right down. It turns allies into a total defensive deck, but there's some really cool interactions there. It really makes the black-white life gain allies deck that much better because it wanted to be defensive anyways. I think Cohort is pretty solid, if a little bit too defensive. The other mechanic, of course, being support. Support was okay. I think I supported twice with Expedition Raptor, and I got value off of it, and that was cool. But again, I think you don't want to be jumping on every support card ever, and you don't want to be playing bad creatures just because, hey, if I support them, they'll be good. You know, it's exactly the same as that 1/1 double striker that we had a few sets ago. People played it because, hey, if I put an aura on it, or if I do this and this, it'll be good. Don't play bad cards to make other cards good. Play good cards. Play average cards over bad cards. Do not play bad cards to make mechanics good. Just don't do it. But yeah, I'm pretty sure I approached the mechanics pretty okay, and I think they performed kind of where I thought they would, with Cohort probably being the one that overperformed the most for me, and Surge and Support being right where I pegged them as just being kind of dumb little added value mechanics that I really couldn't care too much about. The format seems fine. It seems a little bit faster than Battle for Zendikar, but it definitely does lead itself to board stalls with how many 2/4s there are and 1/3s and just big butted creatures. We'll see if that maintains in draft or not. I have a feeling draft is going to be a fair bit faster than sealed. It always is faster anyways. I do not think that you can just expect to get to 7. That's why I'm still being slightly hesitant on Roiling Waters. Be very careful. I don't think 7 is a given. I heard so many people at the pre-release saying, oh, well, in Battle for Zendikar, you're always getting like 9 mana. And that's just never been my experience with Battle for Zendikar. Yes, there's Eldrazi, and yes, you get some mana out, but I don't think even in battle, 8 was a given. I think 8 was outside the norm, to be honest, and even 7 was sometimes difficult to get to. So do not load up on high casting cost creatures, because there are so many less easy ways to ramp in this set. There's so few Scion producers, and yeah, it'll remain to be seen how draft shapes up. I have a feeling that single pack of Zendikar is not going to enable you to go into Awaken decks or Landfall decks or anything like that, which is a shame because there are a number of cards that play super well with a lot of Awaken cards and a lot of Landfall cards. Having 1 or 2 gives you a little bit of extra value, but not too much. So be careful with that. I think the Battle for Zendikar pack in draft is really going to be kind of a good stuff deck, or a good stuff pack. You're going to be in XX colors, and you're going to take the good cards from those colors in that deck. I don't think you're going to be going for much synergy with that last pack of Zendikar, but we'll see how that goes. I will be drafting it Friday, and I will have for you on Spiky Saturday a behind-the-shoulder draft of my first. F&M Oath of the Gatewatch draft, so make sure you stay tuned for that. But let me know in the comments below what you thought of my pre-release pools, my pre-release decks. Let me know how your pre-release went. I've heard from a couple of people already how their pre-releases went, including one who won their two-headed giant pre-release. Congratulations to them, and thanks for watching. But as always, if you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, you can find me on Twitter at The Mana Leak. That's L-E-E-K, like the vegetable, not the card. And you can also find me on Facebook at facebook.com/The Mana Leak. You've already found me here on YouTube. Make use of that comment section down below, as I said. And if you enjoy my videos, click those little thumbs up icons to like my videos, and click subscribe if you have not already. That way you will get to see the latest Crack It Back Tuesdays, Wacky Wednesdays, Spiky Saturdays, Top 10 Thursdays, the box openings that will be happening this weekend of Oath of the Gatewatch, the first F&M draft, and everything else that will be published here and or there. But as always, if you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, let me know. Otherwise, I will see you all next time.